Yes, a very good morning. It's Friday, the 7th of August, 2020. My name's Pete Fairbairn, and welcome back to the best On Ground Weekday Kickoff, our final episode of the week. And joining me in the Sunshine State this morning is Jim Tucker. How are you, Jim?
Very good, mate. Beautiful day again.
Beautiful day indeed, and I know that you will have been up watching the golf this morning, the USPGA Championship at Harding Park, and we are going to speak to that. But today we're going to start in rugby league, and a pretty massive story coming out of Sydney yesterday with South Sydney Rabbitohs coach Wayne Bennett, St George Illawarra Dragons forward Paul Vaughan, both stood down by the NRL over some COVID-19 breaches. A story from David Riccio and Phil Rothfield in the Daily Telegraph today, and some quotes from NRL Chair Peter V'landys in that story. He's blasted Bennett and Vaughan and warning them that their biosecurity breaches could set the game back a decade, let alone how much other people are sacrificing to try and stay within that NRL bubble, the amount of money on the line here. Vaughan went out for breakfast, Bennett went out for lunch. Some of the quotes from Wayne Bennett, I'm going to read you a couple, Jim, because they're pretty extraordinary. I went to lunch. There weren't many people there. It was isolated. I just had something to eat. We're away from everybody. We had lunch and we left. If it was a breach, I wouldn't have done it. To be candid with you, I'm sure we haven't been perfect with the rules. To think we're perfect, that wouldn't be the fact. There have been other times I've gone out. I don't live in restaurants, but I have gone to the kebab shop. Are we getting a bit small-minded? I wouldn't have done it if I thought I did something wrong. I know these rules have been evolving constantly throughout the season as the NRL reacts to the COVID-19 situation in each state, but surely Bennett and Vaughan should have known better, and the NRL's done the right thing in standing them down, Jim?
I think so, exactly. Small-minded is people who don't grasp the severity of COVID-19, but also the myriad ways you can catch it. Wayne Bennett going to a restaurant where there's a few people. What does that mean? You go to a restaurant with a few people and the wave of people that might have been in there 1 hour before have left dabs of coronavirus all over the restaurant, all over the entranceway on the table you're sitting at. I mean, it's ridiculous. Bennett has a bigger brain than that, and he has completely stuffed up. A bubble is a bubble. You stay in it. It is onerous, it is troublesome, it messes with your mind, but it's a really simple thing. You just stay away from the public, essentially, and it doesn't matter if you play an away game and then go back to your supposed hometown. That doesn't matter. You've just got to remove yourself from society. It's really, really tricky, but you're talking of hundreds of millions of dollars, and that's essentially what V'landys is blowing up about. Because if the NRL have to can certain matches in rounds or a whole round because of Wayne Bennett going out for a kebab, everyone's got a right to be furious.
2020 is just peaking with the fact that we're talking about Wayne Bennett going out for a kebab, but obviously huge week for this to be happening as well, with the Rabbitohs coming up against his old team, the Brisbane Broncos. Bennett will be watching that one from the couch with his assistant Jason Demetri to take charge. Speaking of head coaches in the NRL, our second story comes from Brad Walter at NRL.com today. He's reporting that former Newcastle Knights coach Nathan Brown has done a bit of a backflip and is likely to accept the New Zealand Warriors head coaching role. Also speculation within that article and throughout all of the papers this morning that Phil Gould could actually take on some sort of formal role with the Warriors as well, potentially around recruitment and similar to the work he did with Penrith. Nathan Brown's an interesting choice. He's been working as a consultant with the Warriors halves over pre-season. We know at Newcastle he did a lot of the grunt work and build up a team who went through a lot of pain to assemble a roster which now sees rookie coach Adam O'Brien looking to take them into the finals this year. With the Warriors probably needing a rebuild themselves, is Brown the right choice, or did they really need to find somebody young and hungry and ready to completely rip up the playbook here, Jim?
I think they needed an experienced coach, and Nathan Brown certainly ticks that box. He's a guy that can go back to basics, reassemble a club in all the right areas. Part of it will be recruitment, part of it will be good practices. It's really disappointing that Stephen Kearney is not the man that's working with the Warriors, because I think their identity, certainly very obviously as a Kiwi team with a Kiwi legend at the helm, is just the perfect formula. There's always that issue, someone who doesn't quite get the Kiwi methodology being transplanted onto the Warriors. But as I say, Brown's very experienced, and he's got a track record with building up a club in all the different areas. And he does have some results. When he gets a bit of a roll on, he's had some really good runs of results. So that's an interesting one. And certainly because he's had a little bit of form within the camp, working with the halves, that really works in his favour. But the Warriors, you've got to say, they're in one of the most unenviable positions of this whole NRL competition, being transplanted to Australia. There's things going through that camp that are just unreal and will never happen again in another 100 years. So they've really been, if there were troubles and inefficiencies in the club, they've certainly been magnified by the COVID-19 situation.
Yeah, well said. And we saw interim coach Todd Payton, when he ruled himself out of the permanent role, having been offered it last week, we did see him say one of the reasons was the uncertainty around where would they be based next year. Would they be able to travel within a trans-Tasman bubble? His, I believe, father-in-law is unwell, and some concerns about being able to stay connected there led to him to turning that role down. We moved from rugby league to the PGA Championship, the first major of the year, and it's great to see it getting underway at Harding Park. And even greater to see an Aussie at the top of the leaderboard. For those who watched and listened yesterday, you'll know that Tom Deason and I spoke a little bit about Rory McIlroy. Well, McIlroy's sitting even par. Tiger Woods, we spoke about him. He's sitting 2 under, dropped a shot late there. But we did mention yesterday that Jason Day has been in really good form heading into this tournament. It's a tournament he's won before, and he's sitting alone currently at the top of the leaderboard on 5 under. Brooks Koepka, Xander Schauffele, the X-Man, sitting 1 stroke back. And about half the group are currently going through now. The likes of John Rahm, Tommy Fleetwood, Sergio Garcia, Bryson DeChambeau are currently in action now, and Mark Leishman about to tee off shortly. Jim, I know you love your golf. You will have been watching this morning. Talk us through Jason Day's round and what a fantastic start he's gotten off to.
Well, no one's in any doubt about Day's ability to make birdies, but the beauty of his round today on a course that really catches you out with the thick rough, he didn't make a single bogey. He had 5 birdies in his 65. There's only 2 par 5s on the course. He birdied both of those. So he's bankrolled his round with all the musts. And he's got a brilliant short game. Some of his stats and just the vision of Day over the years, playing great escape shots. He was able to pull a couple of those out from some of the heavy stuff today and keep his card intact. So a really good opening round for Day. He's had 3 top 10s in his last 3 starts on the PGA Tour, so he's a man in form. Now, the beauty of Harding Park here, it's right near the ocean. It's on a lake, but right near the ocean in San Francisco, so you do get a lot of changeable conditions, so that at some stage in these 4 days, the fog will roll in, the air will be heavier, probably another club for some players on different shots and whatever, so lots of theatre still to be played out. Looking at that leaderboard, though, Brooks Koepka, who's won back-to-back PGAs, he's had a 4 under 66 to start it, and that's incredible. He's had knee problems and has parts of his game working in different weeks, but he's just got a majors mentality, so he's right in the hunt as well.
And in terms of the other Aussies to watch, like I say, Mark Leishman just about to tee off, Lucas Herbert as well. I think Cameron Smith went through it at 1 or 2 under as well. Adam Scott, is he in action, Jim? How's he faring?
Yeah, he started in a later group, a marquee group with DeChambeau and Ricky Fowler. Fowler bogeyed the first. Scott leaked his drive into the trees, his first tee shot. So he lost a shot there as well. But Scotty's been the last of the top 10 players in the world. He's world number 9 to get back on the tour. He spent that time in Queensland, an extended time with his family, doing some brilliant things to nourish golf in Queensland. He set up a program, $5 for any junior to play on the Sunshine Coast, Mullaney Golf Club, where he has played a bit. He's on side with Wayne Persky, the head pro there, and they've got $5. Anyone under 18, you can play golf. So that's a brilliant initiative by Adam Scott, and he's really enjoyed this period just to give his kids that a bit of Aussie flavour at extended time. So he's very balanced, and you've got to think long term. 7 majors in 11 months. Scotty might not be at his best for this one, but he is really focused on winning another one over this next 12 months.
Yeah, yet another example of an Aussie athlete, and we've talked about Nick Kyrgios and the great work he's done. We've talked about Paddy Mills and the spotlight he's shone on the Black Lives Matter movement. Yet another example of an Aussie athlete really using this time for good and being a positive ambassador for the country. Our penultimate story today, I know you're a Sheffield Shield man from way back. We turned to an article from Richard Hines in the ABC today. It's a great look at the year ahead for Cricket Australia, or the season ahead, how they're going to be able to, I guess, minimise risk and learn from the football codes in terms of getting their seasons away within the COVID environment. They probably will have to make some tough calls about things like where the Boxing Day test is held, the Big Bash League, whether there's some bubbles associated with that, and we might see the fixtures ripped up. And even the WBBL, real disappointment there for Australia's elite female cricketers that's going to clash with the IPL and prevent them from earning a nice extra whack over there in the subcontinent in the same way that the men do this year. I wouldn't be surprised if we see some change in that space, allowing them to play in the IPL as well. But I want to talk to you about the Sheffield Shield. We know it's 10 rounds at the moment. We know Cricket Australia was keen to see it reduced to 8 rounds. That was rejected by the states. It's a loss-making competition in the first place. It doesn't rely on fans to attend. It literally is a development competition to produce Australia's next Test cricketers and to get the current ones and those in competition for spots some time playing against the red ball. What's the Sheffield Shield going to look like in 2020 and 21?
I think you can talk about it being a loss-making competition, but that is the bedrock of Australian cricket. Like, every bit of advantage we have in the Test arena comes from Sheffield Shield cricket. Ultimately, just with players able to have Test-like conditions, many times there's no problems with fans in the stand. No one's going to have to self-isolate there. You can have a whole row of seats to yourself. So the crowd situation's not an issue. If I was doing anything, I'd rip out the domestic one-day comp or something like that. I mean, Sheffield Shield has to be preserved as the absolute learning ground for Test cricket, and also the arena where the Test players, maybe just that once or twice at the start of the summer, get a chance to have a knock and get ready for what is going to be a really tricked up, interesting summer against India. But I wouldn't reduce it to 8 rounds. I'd do everything possible to keep it at 10. No one's saying it's going to be easy, but it has to be achieved if it's at all possible. And I mean, Victoria, they might not play at the Junction Oval. You might get them to Country Victoria, something like that. So there's various ways to move things around or get Victoria playing on the road for a number of games.
Yeah, for what it's worth, I agree with you. I think you look at an example of somebody like Marnus Labuschagne and the benefits from him playing county cricket in the UK and just getting that extra time against the red ball. It's a completely different style of cricket. It's still the pinnacle. Test cricket is still the pinnacle in the world game, and the Sheffield Shield competition is, it's the envy of most other nations in the world that we have such a strong domestic first-class competition. And I think, to your point, it does need to be prioritised. Our final article today comes from John Ralph in the Herald Sun. We're looking at the AFL players and their families who are in hubs in Queensland. It's a little bit sensationalist here, but there's concerns being raised by a couple of former AFL players in Warren Treadray and Jonathan Brown around the AFL hubs becoming schoolies for adults in regards to the partners and I guess the add-ons and the plus ones who are all in those hubs alongside the footballers. AFL Players Association boss Paul Marsh, he's hit back and said the players are being pretty unfairly maligned. Some wags have been made to feel unwanted for requesting things like tutoring for their children and nannies while they're in this incredibly strict environment where the protocols do prohibit them from being able to bring people in off their own bat. Where does this one sit, Jim? Should individuals who transgress be sent out of these hubs, rather than clubs fined? Should the AFL be cracking down and essentially saying, you guys are in this hub situation, you've chosen to be there, you've got to play by our rules? Or should we be a little bit more understanding of how challenging it must be for the players and their families and make some greater allowances for them?
I think understanding's crucial. It's a two-way street. I mean, the AFL, they're total reason for being is to get football on the park so they get their broadcast money. The flip side is they have got to do everything possible to make a really challenging situation manageable. And there's mental health issues. I really admire the AFL for bringing wives and children and connectedness to a really tricky situation. Now, I have heard firsthand from a hotel on the Gold Coast that there's almost like a wellness room for the wellness instructor. So, I mean, different rooms are provided and whatever, not all taken up, of course. But, I mean, you've got to make exceptional availability on these things in exceptional circumstances. People of the old school would say, harden up, come on, it's just footy. But this is an extended time. It's not 1 week. Anyone can do, lock yourself in a room for a week and do anything. But when it's over an extended time, you're talking about mental health situations.
Yeah, knowing myself, having done 2 weeks quarantine, relocating to Queensland in April, being lucky enough to do that in a house and with my wife and child, but it's not easy. And we're talking about 15 weeks potentially for some of these people, and with multiple children inside a resort, I dare say that those children might get pretty stir crazy. Jim, thank you so much for your time. Always great to catch up. I want to thank all our guests who've been on the Best On Ground Weekday Kickoff this week. And Jim, hopefully we'll have you back on the show in the next week or two again.
Oh, hopefully with another golf major with an Aussie leading the way.
And that's absolutely our one to watch, to see how Jason Day performs over the coming days. And I've got a bit of a soft spot for Mark Leishman, so hoping he has a nice round today too. Jim, thanks very much for your time. Have a great weekend.
And you. Cheers, Pete.